Good evening. Welcome to the September 20th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. We're glad you're with us, whether here in chambers or watching at home on TV. As is our tradition, we'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose, Commissioner Wallace, Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Culvaney,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover.
Okay, we have a short roster tonight. Various other things taking folks away, but probably most notably, we want to give our congratulations out to the Glover family, welcoming a new little Glover to the world, so that's an awful lot of fun. I'm going to start off here with some comments that I'd prepared. Some of you may have heard parts of this over the last 6 to 8 months, but we're going to expand a little bit on it. This has to do with our public comments portion of our meetings. We've had a couple meetings where we've kind of lost sight of some basic decorum and mutual respect. We're counting on everyone here not to let that happen again. The public comments portion of our agenda are important, valued parts of each council meeting. There are provisions in the agenda for input at each active and first reading item, as well as later, and open items not specific to an agenda topic. But beyond tonight's meeting, there are a variety of additional opportunities to engage council members as well. Our e-remark system, the CRC system, Coffee with the Council, direct email or by phone, and every one of your council members spends quite a bit of time off dais meeting with folks live. Some of the best meetings are those. The public comments opportunities tonight and in future meetings are intentional parts of a structured meeting. They offer an opportunity to deliver comments to the council. Please remember it's not a debate nor is it an open question and answer session. But applause or heckling is not acceptable, whether it be for something said from the dais or a comment delivered to the council. Your council is listening, taking notes, considering what is said. We hope you are as well. Often and rightly, some time is needed to reflect on the comments presented. The same is expected of everyone in the room. Also important is this opportunity to address the council is not an opportunity to name call, accuse others of ill will, or debate one another. If we can't follow the rules, if we can't exhibit a little decorum and respect for another, we'll stop a meeting. If you do plan to speak, please keep the following in mind. State your name for the record. Address your comments to me as the chair of the meeting. Keep comments to 5 minutes or less. Avoid repeating what others have already said. Keep your comments to one visit to the podium per subject. And remember that comments are most effective when they focus on subjects within the scope of Downers Grove governance. Finally, if you forget to mention something or additional conversation brings up a new idea, please hold that until after the meeting and use one of the other methods, email, CRC, phone call, to contact us as needed, or just bring that comment to our next meeting. So with that, we do have a few proclamations tonight. The first proclamation this evening concerns National Preparedness Month. Whereas National Preparedness Month is an observance each September, which is designed to raise awareness about the importance of preparing for disasters and emergencies that could happen at any time. And whereas the Village of Downers Grove is not immune to tornadoes, floods, power outages, heat waves, blizzards, deep freezes, pandemics, or other disasters, both natural and man-made. Whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency's theme for 2022, A Lasting Legacy, reminds us all that the life you have built is worth protecting and that preparing for disasters can help create a lasting legacy for you and your family. Whereas the FEMA Ready campaign has identified the disabled community as a key target audience and will launch a series of public service advertisements specifically to help those preparing with disabilities. Whereas emergency preparedness is the responsibility of every citizen, and when individuals take responsibility for preparing for their families and their communities, the chances of survival and return to normalcy following a disaster are greatly increased. Whereas National Preparedness Month is also an opportunity to pay tribute to our first responders who put themselves at risk in the care of their fellow citizens. Whereas in the event of any disaster or other large-scale emergency, it is our first responders, including local law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, and public works professionals who, when properly trained and equipped, have the greatest potential to save lives and limit casualties after disaster. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim September 2022 as National Preparedness Month in the Village of Downers Grove, and encourage all citizens, families, organizations, civic groups, religious institutions, and businesses to visit ready.gov and develop their own emergency preparedness plan, working together toward creating a more prepared and resilient society, and to find and take opportunities to thank those members of law enforcement community, firefighting, emergency medical, and public works professionals that stand always prepared to serve our community. Dated this 20th day of September 2022, Downers Grove, Illinois. We have several of them this evening. Having taken a week off last week, we're kind of catching up. This concerns Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 230th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the 1787 Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. Whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of proclamation each year by the President of the United States designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd, 2022 to be Constitution Week in the Village of Downers Grove, and urge all our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties. Dated the 20th day, September 2022, Downers Grove, Illinois. This one is kind of a favorite and probably a good reminder for all of us. Whereas the noblest human concern is a concern for others, and that concern leads to the understanding, love, and respect that builds cohesive families and communities. Whereas acts of neighborliness are often simple gestures that help us be a good neighbor, lift up others, or make our community a place we love. Whereas these acts of kindness impact giver, receiver, and the observer in often immeasurable ways. Whereas a sense of community is strengthened and expressed in our neighborhoods where we give each other the opportunity to share and feel part of a larger family. Whereas kindness and neighborliness are traits understood and appreciated across races, generations, genders, and religions. Whereas on September 22nd, 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed Proclamation 4601, establishing September 24th, 1978 as Good Neighbor Day. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim September 28th, 2022 to be Good Neighbor Day in the Village of Downers Grove, and urge all our citizens to pledge to be a good neighbor, with the goal of being a more connected and caring community, to be the person who lives with kindness and concern for their neighbors, to take the first step by connecting with neighbors and introducing yourself, to practice the good neighbor mindset, to make connections, invitations, stay aware, and to be available to my neighbors, and to practice tolerance and listening in an effort to understand each other better. Indeed, good neighbors make great neighborhoods. Dated this day, 20th day of September, 2022, Downers Grove, Illinois. And finally, another important mark for Downers Grove. In 2019, the Downers Grove Historical Society established an award, and each year we help get that award out. Whereas James Doran is being presented with the Downers Grove Historical Society's Montreux Dunham Award of 2022, which was established in 2019 to honor those whose significant service and contributions to the Village of Downers Grove have earned them a place in its history. Whereas James Doran was born on April 13, 1943 in Aurora, Illinois, and spent 33 years in Downers Grove as a middle school teacher of history and government at O'Neill Middle School. Whereas his interest in history led him to be an active board member of the Downers Grove Historical Society, where he was in charge of the restoration of the Main Street Cemetery for many years. Whereas he loved to present local history to the children of Downers Grove by portraying Pierce Downer at the yearly Founders Day program, and also as a docent at the Klein Creek Historic Village in West Chicago, Illinois, where he was a historic interpreter. Whereas in his many years as a middle school teacher, James Doran wanted to impress upon the children the importance of protecting the environment, so he sponsored the recycling club. Then in 1995, James teamed up with teachers from other schools in Downers Grove and founded a program called Protect a Parkway, with a mission to clean up the parkways of the village. Whereas James also enjoyed writing. His first book, Letters from a Shoebox, based on Civil War letters given to him by a relative. He also wrote the book Windy City Stories, a collection of stories about Chicago, where Jim's light and humorous style made his books particularly readable. Whereas James Doran sadly passed away in 2022, but will be forever remembered for all he did, not only in restoring our community, but in his work with teaching our children the importance of preserving the environment and bringing history of the village to life. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of September 11th through 17th, 2022, as James Doran Week in the Village of Downers Grove, and I encourage all members of our community to remember James Doran for his lifetime of service and accomplishments, including the Downers Grove Historical Society's 2022 Montreux Dunham Award, and to model James's dedication to teaching, nature, and history. Dated this 20th day of September, 2022, Downers Grove, Illinois. We do have a couple of members of the Historical Society here, if you guys would like to come up and take the award. Richie, going to join?
Sure.
Absolutely. Okay, we are on to item 4 on our agenda, minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion concerning those minutes?
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes of the September 6th, 2022 Village Council meeting as presented.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the council? Rose, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Aye.
Commissioner Cullivaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion concerning a consent agenda?
Mayor, I move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Aye.
Commissioner Cullivaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye. That too passes unanimously. Just like that, we're on to item 6, our active agenda. This is the portion of the meeting where we plan to take action on items previously discussed or debated here, sometimes one time before, sometimes months at a time before. Is there a motion concerning annexation?
Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing execution of an annexation agreement for the property located at 3811 Sterling Road as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the audience on this item? Comments or questions from the council? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Aye.
Commissioner Cullivaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye. That too passes unanimously. Just like that, we are on to item 7 of our agenda. This is the first reading portion of our meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where we take up items sometimes for a first time, sometimes for multiple times, but on which we do not plan to take final action tonight. So with that, I'll hand it over to Manager Fieldman and walk us through our first reading.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. There are 2 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first has to do with the rehabilitation of the water tower at Downers Drive. And here to present background information on this project is our Assistant Public Works Director, David Moody.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
This is part of our orientation process with presenters where they thought they had a presentation and we don't have one ready.
Is it orientation or hazing? Give us just a second, guys. You think we got it or no?
Go
It's
for
on
it.
the agenda.
Okay.
So I Is it had a
Oh,
slideshow, on
It's
but
on the agenda.
Can you
It's on the
pull it up
agenda, I
off the
think.
agenda?
posted online.
There we go.
That's why we have a council.
Right.
Nice catch.
All right, David, after that, it's over to you.
Perfect, thank you. So, Mike, you go to slide 2, please. Tonight, I'm here to present the Downers Drive Water Tower Rehabilitation Project. You can see in a second a photo right here.
Maybe it was emailed. It was emailed to us. It was actually emailed to us in advance. You want me to send it to you?
We got it.
Okay.
That would even take longer to.
Everybody, prepare your questions on the water tower. We're gonna want to grill David after this.
Let's try that again. Now to present background information on this project is our Assistant Public Works Director, Dave Moody.
So as I was saying, you guys can see a photo of the water tower right here, and then Mike, you go on the next slide. It's located at 4318 Downers Drive, just south of Bill K. Nissan there, off Ogden Avenue. Mike, you go to the next slide, please. It is a 2 million gallon elevated water storage tank. It was constructed in 1957, and the last time this tank underwent a significant rehab project was in 1998. Okay, Mike? So the rehabilitation is going to consist of maintenance and repairs to meet IEPA requirements. It's going to include new exterior and interior coatings. Also going to include safety improvements for OSHA compliance, and the installation of a mixer inside the tank. We solicited bids for this work in August and received 3 bids. The lowest bid is from Era Valdivia Contractors in Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $2,612,540. And with that, I will open up to any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the audience on this item? Comments or questions from the council?
Honestly,
Leslie.
I just have one out of pure curiosity. What is like the life expectancy of one of these? You know, like how long can it effectively function? Also, I say that as the daughter of somebody who used to design stuff like this. So, but he passed, so I can't ask him now.
So we can look into that and certainly get back to you guys. Every tank is different. I will say this, we do have another older tank in town, built in the 1930s, so it's still functioning. We can definitely get back to you on that.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rich?
Is this a normal interval for maintenance? I mean, 24 years strikes me as a long time. And by looking at the pictures, is this one in worse shape, a lot worse shape than the others, or is that all?
No, you could expect about this amount of time before a major rehab.
Right.
I have a question about what's tank mixer do?
Tank mixer, yes. So it is going to work to cycle the water in the tank.
And is there one there now? Is this a replacement?
There is not, no.
So what makes us decide we want to add that feature to this?
Sure. So what we can see is a trend downward in water usage. This is a large tank, 2 million gallons. The mix with that downward trend in water usage, which is low flow fixtures, stuff like that, this tank will ensure that moving forward as water demand continues to decrease, which is what we think it will be doing, will continue to deliver that high quality of water that's in there now.
Interesting, okay. Any other questions?
I was going to ask what a tank mixer does. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, we'll move on then. Ian, did you have a question? We don't usually do this, but we got a short agenda tonight, so go ahead. Go ahead. Come up. You do have to come up to the microphone. You can't get away with that.
No, I just had a question. So, like,
is it just the fact that it needs to be brought to code, or is there any other reason for it to be, that we need to do this now? I mean, I'm just curious, because I don't really know.
Well, we'll add that to some of the additional notes that end up in the next round of packets.
If I can comment on that. If you look at the pictures in the packet, it'll be painfully clear why this thing needs to be done now.
David, thank you. Tough first round.
The next item on the first reading agenda is consideration of an ordinance amending the planned unit development at the Esplanade, as we commonly refer to it. Here to provide background information on this petition is our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich.
Thank you, Manager Fielman. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. As Manager Fielman noted, this is a planned unit development for the Esplanade at Locust Point. The Esplanade development is in the northwest corner of Downers Grove, just bordered by I-355 to the east and Butterfield Road on the north. It's currently zoned ORM PUD, which is Office Research and Manufacturing Planned Unit Development. This image shows a little bit closer of the multitude of parcels that are located within the Esplanade Planned Unit Development. The PUD was originally approved in 1991 with a master site plan and approved use list. Various amendments over time have added different buildings to the property, as well as amending some of the uses. The proposal tonight would add multifamily residential as an allowable use within this PUD. The Village Council may approve uses within PUDs that are not typically found in the underlying zoning district. The comprehensive plan notes that the area's office corporate campus. It identifies this portion of this property as Catalyst Site C1 with office anticipated for that. However, it does note that multifamily residential should be located near significant activities, centers, and major roadways, which this site would qualify as that as well, with 355 and Butterfield Road there. The Plan Commission reviewed this at their Plan Commission meeting last Monday and found that the standards were met for a PUD amendment and recommended approval of the petition. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you tonight, as well as the petitioners here as well, if you have any questions for them as well.
I'll just add that there's no actual project proposed here, just changing the words in the ordinance. So if this is approved, it would allow them to proceed with a petition for multifamily development at a later date.
Any comments or questions from the audience, or if any of the petitioners have anything they want to add? Okay. Comments or questions from council? Rich?
Yeah, from the petitioner, I'm most interested in the potential demographic of this potential residential project.
So there's no project proposed at this time. No project proposed.
Okay.
If I could, I'll just say, my name is Hal Frank. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Meltzer, Pertil, and Stell. I represent the petitioner here, M&R Development. If, as was just stated, there is no specific project before you this evening, but we do have our team here if you do have any other questions. Representatives Gary Morey and Ron Lund from Hamilton Partners and Tony Rossi from M&R Development. Thank you.
Thanks. Leslie?
Yeah, I'm not quite as concerned about, whether or not how much office space we'll need. I know that COVID has kind of thrown everything for a loop and nobody can really effectively predict where that's going to go. But just knowing that this is ORM, do you see this anywhere else in DuPage or in the surrounding area? Is this type of a location within this this zoning desirable? Have you seen that elsewhere? So just to get a kind of a sense for if this is something that we're starting to see trend.
Yes, I'm Ron Lunt with one of the founding partners of Hamilton Partners. And yeah, we have a similar issues that we had to deal with at Hamilton Lakes and Itasca. That's another DuPage County development. And right now the office market is really in such a upheaval. A replacement cost for a building like we built at Esplanade would probably be $350 to $400 a foot, yet buildings are selling for $50 to $200 a square foot. So it's going to be a long time before the market will justify new office development. We have retained, when we do present the plan, which we're not doing tonight, we have retained one office site that would accommodate a large building when and if that occurs. But in competing for office uses today, it's been an amenity race. And much like having a fitness center, maybe 1 out of 10 tenants actually uses a fitness center, but having it there is important. And multifamily just brings more activity to this site. All the neighboring buildings have supported it, the hotels, the other office buildings. And we think it would bring activity. I think it checks a box for accommodating living, and there's certainly a lot of renters by choice these days, not buying homes. And with the recent increase in interest rates, that trend will probably continue for the foreseeable future. So we think having that use in the project would really make it much more dynamic and more competitive.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do you have a view as to the permanence of this work at home and less people going to the office?
My whole life, I've spent 50 years developing office buildings, and I wish I could answer that question. The more of the studies, the kind of the common, there are certain jobs that will always stay remote that are more coding or things like that. But for the general office tenants that we have, it's coming down to 3 out of 5 days per week is what people are thinking. I personally think and hope that it'll be more than that. We had this process prior to the pandemic of densifying. People were packing more and more people into office space. They were using tabling, and the old 250 square feet per person went down to 175 square feet per person. So that obviously has reversed, which is good. But on the other hand, now the remote work is, so really the major corporations are the ones that have been most indecisive. All our small tenants are back. We've had some need to reduce space. Logistics people are increasing space. But in general, the big companies just are delaying decisions. We're doing a lot of short-term lease renewals. It really is. My guess is it'll end up at 3 to 4 days of work with some flex time so that people can do things that they need to do, whether it's childcare or whatever. Or you might have some series of meetings that can be done remote. But I wish I knew the final answer to that. It would help me figure out what I should do with all these buildings we own.
Are you seeing any migration of offices from the city to the
Not
suburbs?
as much as I'd expected at this point, but I'm hoping that happens, and usually that's the bigger users. We've had a couple of smaller ones do that. You saw that recent article where McDonald's was complaining about being in the city of Chicago. Well, why'd you leave in the first place, right? And they're trying to attract the millennials, and in the past that's been downtown, that's where they want to live. During the beginning of the pandemic, downtown apartments, for example, you had about a 15% vacancy. That's already been restored to 5 or 6%. Office users are still probably only 55, 57% occupying. So that's really created a lot of turmoil amongst downtown retail. But if you want to drive downtown now, it's back to the old days. It takes you a long time. So I don't know where all these people are going. So all I know is our golf course is getting more and more play than it's ever had during the regular times.
Working from home.
It's all me.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Please, go ahead.
So the ordinance that we would be looking to move would be specific to this site.
Only this planned unit development,
Okay.
only what's outlined in blue.
Do we have, has there been any other example, I think I know the answer, but I feel like I need to ask, where we have done similar or the same in town, where it's been, zoned for office and we're
Not to my
applying?
knowledge.
Okay. If I could just follow up with a comment. So I think my first take on this as we're discussing this is I see no issue with this. I think we are in a changed time. I think there's an opportunity for this to be in some ways an example of what can happen. I don't like the idea of always making these decisions in what we've already heard is a wild or up and down time. But to me, this is, we're years away before anything normalizes like that. And I think this is on its flush. I haven't seen the building, but the idea of allowing multifamily, especially at this location, I see no reason to oppose that. So just my initial comments on this as we're discussing. I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts as they're thinking about it.
Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, I share Commissioner Gilmartin's thoughts on that. I think it is appropriate that changes are being made to deal with today's reality. And one of the letters that came in support said, well, how much longer are we going to wait for Class A office demand to increase? Downers Grove is a very valuable and desirable community for people to move into. So this will give them the opportunity to do that. And our hopes is once they land in Downers Grove and you know, they decide to stay here, raise a family here, and create a generational situation.
I won't repeat what my colleague said, but I will say that even the best plans are really best executed if they retain some flexibility. None of us has a crystal ball. And so this kind of a process of, first of all, establishing a PUD to start with, sets us up then for a proper process forward for evaluating those adjustments to how it might be used over time. And I frankly think it's totally reasonable. I'm a little fuzzy on the lines, so Stan, you could help me. The line's big and thick. Within this
For television.
within this PUD, I think, even though it's ORM and we sort of all have a picture in our head what that is, I think we also have hospitality, we also have restaurant, we also have education, and we also have childcare, right?
Correct. So there's so if we'll start at the north, there's the Cooper's Hawk Restaurant, a couple office buildings in the middle there. We have some R&D development in there too as well, a couple buildings for research and development. Moving further south, we have ASGE, which is just to the right of the pond on the screen. There's a daycare center there at the corner of Wood Creek and Lacey. Midwestern University has a facility there with a parking garage. And then the former Sarah Lee Spiegel building on the southern end there, which is an office building. So there's a variety of uses in those in the office park and in the PUD itself, plus then the hotel along Wood Creek there, sort of in the upper left-hand corner as well. So a variety of uses in the PUD.
Yeah, that was one of the things that struck me as I was kind of processing this over the weekend was that it's a pretty mixed-use environment as is. And so adding some residential use to that existing PUD that has all of those non-office uses kind of already, there's a certain amount of, I don't know what the right choice of words is, but there's a broad spectrum of uses there now, and adding a use like this strikes me as entirely reasonable. That's at least my gut reaction to it. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Chris.
So this would apply to the entire site here. So in theory, an old office building could be knocked down and applied for a residential multi-use, that type of thing. This is not specific to a vacant or a specific piece within this. It's the entire outline
Correct. It's
here.
the entire blue outline. Correct. Yes.
Okay.
In the most technical sense, it's really just literally a text amendment adding a residential as a use, correct?
That's correct. It's, in essence, a text amendment to the PUD ordinance that allows this use in this PUD.
And does that remove any special use requirement?
So they would have to come in through a PUD amendment process to then provide us some of the more zoning-related items, density, height, bulk, those items, open space, like that. But it wouldn't require a special use. It would go through a PUD amendment.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you all for being here, and thank you, Stan, for your work.
You're welcome.
We'll talk
Thank
more
you, Mayor.
about this in the future.
Thank you, Mayor.
And that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Dave, do you have a manager's report?
I do not have a report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Fantastic. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. One item to present tonight, that is an ordinance approving amendment to PUD number 31 to add multifamily residential as an allowed use. That is all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 10 on our agenda are the public comments portion of the meeting. This is where we invite the public to give us any additional comments they have. Just a reminder to please think about being neighborly and being thoughtful and having goodwill towards your neighbors as you make your comments. So if there's anybody with a subject they want to close the meeting out with, please come on down to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Louise Kelly. I'm a DG resident, and I'm here representing myself and 4 other DG residents, Julia Cohen, Sue Rhodes, Hannah Ausa, and Jessica Nestal. We wrote this comment together. We appreciate that this council honors the environmental work of James Doran. Along those same lines, we've been doing some research on the Environmental Concerns Commission that reports to this council. We're asking tonight that it be reinstated and that the ECC begin to address and represent the environmental concerns of Downers Grove residents. So the Environmental Concerns Commission webpage that's on this council's website gives the appearance of activity. The website says they meet no less than once a month. However, it's been verified that by city staffers and the meeting agendas on the website that they haven't met since January 2020. According to a member of the ECC, there are no plans to meet. And yet 3 new members of the ECC were just reappointed at the August 16th Village Council meeting. So we're trying to understand what's happening with the ECC. I attended coffee with the council to ask about it, and I was told that the ECC meets only when the Village Council directs them to do so. And here's why the Village Council hasn't directed them to meet. According to what I understood, it's because the council, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're more focused on getting the new police station built. And I don't understand why these 2 agendas are mutually exclusive. Certainly the new police station is important, but so is the environment. So is it true that the ECC is not meeting because the City Council hasn't asked them to? And did I understand correctly that the ECC is no longer meeting because of the new police station? That's the word I got from coffee from the council. It was kind of confusing to me. Our village needs an Environmental Concerns Commission that's active. In fact, this very commission would help us to bring forth this police station and see that it's built to LEED standards. Elmhurst, Naperville, Bensonville, Villa Park, Countryside, Sugar Grove all have municipal buildings that are LEED certified, some even LEED silver and gold. Countryside, City Hall, and Police Station is a net zero building. So these are our neighbors. An Environmental Concerns Commission can also help this council resolve sustainability problems. Just to name a few, one is making recycling available to Downers Grove businesses. Westmont Environmental Council promoted a No Motel Mother's Day program that's to no cost to Westmont. They just promoted this program, and that helps pollinators in our area, as we all know. There's a Downers Grove green business practice that this council used to award green businesses that's no longer happening. So an Environmental Concerns Commission, I believe, could administer that award. Our ultimate goal is to find out how we can make the ECC active again. We're taxpayers and community members who have environmental concerns, and we know that many other taxpayers and community members that are here feel the same way. Ultimately, we think the commission should be driven by the concerns of the community as well as the concerns of the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments of a general nature?
Hi. My name is Preston Straub. I've been here before. We had an issue at our condo association with inspections that the village is required. We've been prosecuted twice. The last time has just ended in an OV case. I wanted to bring, since we received a letter from your legal people that another inspection is due, I wanted to appeal that. I sent it to the building department, which apparently is your amended process. You've amended the code to shuffle everything to the appeals board. Apparently some people don't understand that. And I received a letter back saying, well, this is, regarding building. It's not. It's regarding an issue with the International Fire Code, and we are objecting to it, and we're trying to exercise some type of due process. I'm trying to say this the best I can without being long-winded. I brought a copy of the second letter that I sent to your building department for each of the council members. I thought there was 2 more members, or how many members are there? 6?
7.
7. I brought 7 copies of something that I'd like you to have, please. One of the things that I mentioned when I've been at this podium before is the arbitrary decisions of this village throughout this process. That didn't seem to go over well with the mayor. He seemed to think that nothing is arbitrary. What I brought was a letter from your fire department that was sent to my residents. For the life of me, I cannot figure out how the fire department goes and looks up the tax records of the residents that live at Village Square 3 condominiums and then sends them their little propaganda letter saying, you should get your board of directors into control. Okay? And that's what this is. And I have a copy for you. And this was done twice, by the way. Okay? So you can figure out why it was done. I'm not going to make any, assertions now at this time. I just wanted to bring you these 2 pieces of paper so that you could possibly review it and see where this is going to go. Because I can tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, the village is not coming into my private dwelling unit to do an inspection on a device that is not a life safety device and has no test. It's a violation of my 4th Amendment rights, and you're just not doing it. If this goes somewhere else, it remains to be seen. Hopefully not, and hopefully at some point in time, we can get this resolved in some type of manner. May I leave these with someone?
I'll take them.
That's pretty much all I have to say, other than I was kind of shocked that you don't have like a useful life for your water towers and you're just now figuring out what stirring is. You feed a lot of people a lot of water. And I drink bottled water, but even still, I would have thought that the village would have had this water thing all figured out like a long time ago. It would seem to me like you would have a useful life schedule for each tower. You know what I mean? When it needs maintenance. Maybe you do, but it didn't sound like it when I was sitting there. That's pretty much all I have. Have a good night.
Any other general comments for this evening? Okay, seeing none, move on to the mayor's report. A couple of things just to clarify for everything. Louise, thanks for coming. We'll delve into that a little bit more. Just so everybody does understand the process, there are generally 3 types of boards and commissions. Some, like the ECC, are given tasks by the council. Others have quasi-judiciary kinds of roles. Think like Zoning Board of Appeals, where they're petition-driven, meaning somebody from outside the village creates a reason for the group to meet. And then there are others that meet in accordance with our ordinance, such as like our Liquor Commission. So it is true that this council, and I think, I'd have to look back and get the dates, but I think also sort of the end of the one before it, have chosen not to send anything to a variety of our boards and commissions. The reason we still appoint people is because we want that resource to be available to us in the event that something comes up that we think needs attention in that way. It is not always understood and it is not always unanimous, but that is the way we operate those boards and commissions right now. I'm pretty sure our engineering team and our public works teams going back 50 plus years has a general idea of our water tower conditions and their likely lifespans. And lastly, it's important to understand when it comes to inspections and code or compliance and things like that, the village works to try and be a partner and facilitate. But occasionally, as is the instance this evening, we end up in court. So without getting into any details, it's just people need to understand, the rest of the story is there have been 2 different court cases, I believe, that have been decided in the village's favor. And we always are trying for voluntary compliance with codes and voluntary compliance with operations. At some point, if that doesn't happen, we do have to pursue the courts. Are there any council member reports for this evening? We'll start with Rich.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Leslie.
I just want to thank everybody that came out to the Grove Foundation golf outing that was on September 10th. It was a great time had by all and lovely weather, and couldn't have asked for a better day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That was good fun. Chris.
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
I thought for sure we'd hear about Chris's hole-in-one.
Didn't happen at the Grove Foundation.
We did have a...
It's hard to tie it to this, but if you must, yes, I got a hole-in-one last Thursday.
We did have a lot of fun at that Grove Foundation outing, and Chris did get a hole-in-one not at that outing, which his teammates are a little disappointed in. But maybe next time.
It was carrying my team on my back. It was a little hard to get
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all, and good night.